Hi guys, I wanted to show you how we can install SQL Server in your machine. As part of our training, we are going to use extensively SQL Server in order to handle the data as a Azure data engineer. So to install it, let's go to the SQL Server. You have to download it. So once you download it, then only can practice it. Let's search for Google. In Google, I'm going to search SQL Server 22 here. Let's open it. Try SQL Server 2022. Let's take a on-premise SQL Server, and you need to provide all these details here. These are all the general details, everyone can do it, so it's not much difficult. Take a company size, senior data engineer. Let's take India here. I'm just going to say hit on download. It's going to download SQL Server exe file. Now it is done. Just hit on this folder, double click on it, select the custom in order to keep the exe file inside this folder so that I don't need to download again if it is expired. I can directly come to here and I can install it. Let's go for install. It takes a couple of minutes to do it. So once this exe is extracted, automatically it will go for installation. Now download successful. Now it is started installation. Go for installation window here, I mean the tab. The very first option you have to choose, that is new installation. You can see it. New SQL Server installation it is. Let's hit on it. Let me hit on next. Accept the license terms and hit next again. Go next. Is that downloading the set of files? And hit on next. Here I don't need to check this checkbox. I don't need the Azure extension. So uncheck this one. Again hit on next. So mostly we are going to hit next. The very first option here you have to choose, that is database engine services. You have to choose, and let me hit on next again. Hit on next. Hit on next. And we have to provide the authentication. While practicing with the data factory, if your system is not having a password for Windows authentication, go with mixed authentication mode to install SQL Server. That is going to help us at the time of data factory. If your Windows authentication is working fine, that's fine. If it is not working, then we can use SQL authentication to bring the data from on-prem SQL Server. Let's take a mixed. I'm going to provide the password here. Administrator is required for every server, so I'm going to keep the current user as an administrator. Let me hit on add current user. Hit on next. And finally, we are going to hit on install. Now installation is going on. Once installation is done, you have to make sure to restore the sample databases also. Sample databases are very important for us. All those sample databases I'm going to use as part of our regular training activities, as well as the project also we are going to spend some time as part of Azure data engineering. So in that case, that particular sample databases are very important. All the sample databases are available in the Google Drive. I'll share the link and download them and keep in your system And the way I'm going to restore the databases, in the same way you have to restore it. I have already downloaded the databases with the name sample databases. You can find all the databases here. All these databases are important for all these databases I'm going to use. So installation is going on still. Let it done, and I'm going to restore the databases also. It takes a couple of minutes. And in order to connect with the SQL Server, we need to have a SQL Server Management Studio also that you can find. Everyone should install SQL Server Management Studio download. Hit on here. The very first link you can take, either you can take from here. When I hit on it, it will come to this place only. You can see download SQL Server Management Studio SSMS 20.2. You can take this one. Once it is downloaded, just double click on it, it will go for installation. You don't need to have a much more steps for that. But SQL Server is important for if you wanted to practice with the SQL Server. Of course, this client tool also is very important. It was installed in my system already, but you can download and install it. Installation should go for successful. Then only your installation is correct. Then only you can practice. If not, you have to use Azure SQL Server only. So for Azure SQL Server, you have to pay. In a minute, it is going to finish. Now installation is successfully done. Hit on close. Once that is done, you can close this installation window also and download this and install. In my system, it was already installed, so I'm not going to install it. Let's open SQL Server Management Studio to connect my SQL Server. In order to connect it, we require credentials. We are going to use the credentials. Let me do not recover. So what it is trying to ask here is, it is asking a login details. Login details are required. Which login details? SQL Server login details are required. SQL Server login details are required. When you're connecting to this SQL Server, we have a Windows authentication. At the time of installation, we have taken Windows authentication and we have taken SQL authentication also. So in order to go inside the SQL Server, you required credentials. I'm going to use my Windows credentials here. And if your Windows credentials is not working, go with the SQL authentication because we have installed with the mixed mode. At the time of installation, we have taken mixed mode. So when you go for mixed mode, I mean, if you go for SQL authentication here, your username is SCA. And you can provide the password for your SCA account. And then make sure to this encryption is an optional for practicing and hit on connect. Then it is going to connect to the SQL Server. You just observe how exactly it is going to connect here. Hit on connect. Since it is a Windows authentication, we don't need to provide the password. I don't have a databases here. Right click on databases and hit on restore databases. I'm going to keep my databases in this folder. Once you downloaded all the databases from the Google Drive, this databases I'm going to copy and keep in the C drive. Program files, SQL Server. Let's create a one folder here. Databases. And paste all the databases. That's all. and come back to here. I'm going to take these devices in order to access your backup file. Hit on ellipse button, hit on add, and browse your backup file from the databases folder. I'm taking first file, hit OK, again hit OK, again hit OK. Now one database is added here. You can see. You have to do the all repeated steps for all of the databases. Take your devices, add, take the databases again. So I'm taking Bhaskar Bookstore, hit OK, and hit OK. Second one is done. Let's go for third. All these databases are required for our data engineering regular sessions as well as our project. This Bhaskar Contoso DB, we are going to use it for project activities, Azure Data Engineering project end to end, where we are going to spend 20 days with that. And let's go for other database. 3 are done. The fourth one I'm going to take Contoso Retail EW is done. No, 2 are done. Let me take Contoso Retail EW now. Hit OK. Let me refresh. So 3 are done. I think let's make sure to attach all the databases. Bhaskar Contoso is done. Bhaskar Bookstore is done. 3 are done. 4 are done. Let's take a practice databases where we are going to do complete our SQL practices is going to be on top of it. I mean, all exercises will go with that database. Let's restore. SQL regular sessions I'm going to take with a database called source database. This is going to be helpful in many places, even in the data factory. All these databases you need to restore for practicing. Okay, so this is how we are going to set up our prerequisite. In the next session, we are going to see how we can connect with data factory to SQL Server, and how we can use Azure Data Studio is also there. Apart from SQL Server Management Studio, we have a Azure Data Studio also is there to connect with the SQL Server. So keep in mind to install SQL Server in your system and get ready for working with Azure Data Factory. Thank you.